Just then the sun was obscured by a passing black cloud, and a peal of thunder rumbled overhead. Looks were turned to the sky, but it was quite bright and placid, save for that one floating shadow of storm. "Only summer thunder," said one of the guests. "There will be no rain." And the crowd that had been pressed together to watch the maypole dance began to break up in groups and speculate as to what diversion might next be provided for them. I, watching my opportunity, drew Sybil away. "Come down by the river," I whispered. "I must have you to myself for a few minutes." She yielded to my suggestion, and we walked away from the mob of our acquaintance and entered a grove of trees leading to the banks of that part of the Avon which flowed through my grounds. Here we found ourselves quite alone, and, putting my arm round my betrothed, I kissed her tenderly. "Tell me," I said, with a half smile, "do you know how to love yet?" She looked up at me with a passionate darkness in her eyes that startled me. "Yes, I know," was her unexpected answer. "You do?" And I stopped to gaze intently into her fair face. "How did you learn?" She flushed red, then grew pale, and clung to me with a nervous, almost feverish force. "Very strangely," she replied, "and quite suddenly. The lesson was easy, I found. Too easy. Geoffrey." She paused and fixed her eyes full on mine. "I will tell you how I learnt it, but not now, some other day." Here she broke off and began to laugh rather forcefully. "I will tell you when we are married." She glanced anxiously about her, then, with a sudden abandonment of her usual reserve and pride, threw herself into my arms and kissed my lips with such ardor as made my senses reel. "Sybil, Sybil," I murmured, holding her close to my heart. "Oh, my darling, you love me. At last you love me." "Hush, hush," she said breathlessly. "You must forget that kiss. It was too bold of me. It was wrong. I did not mean it. I was thinking of something else. Geoffrey," and her small hands clenched on mine with a sort of eager fierceness, "I wish I had never learned to love. I was happier before I knew." A frown knitted her brows. "Now," she went on, in the same breathless, hurried way, "I want love. I am starving, thirsting for it. I want to be drowned in it, lost in it, killed by it. Nothing else will content me." I folded her still closer in my arms. "Did I not say you would change, Sybil?" I whispered. "Your coldness and insensibility to love was unnatural and could not last. My darling, I always knew that." "You always knew," she echoed a little disdainfully. "Ah, but you do not know even now what has chanced to me, nor shall I tell you yet. Oh, Geoffrey!" Here she drew herself out of my embrace and, stooping, gathered some bluebells in the grass. "See these little flowers growing so purely and peacefully in the shade by the Avon? They remind me of what I was, here in this very place, long ago. I was quite as happy as I think innocent as these blossoms. I had no thought of evil in my nature, and the only love I dreamed of was the love of the fairy prince for the fairy princess, as harmless an idea as the loves of the flowers themselves. Yes, I was then all I should like to be now, all that I am not." "You are everything that is beautiful and sweet," I told her admiringly, as I watched the play of retrospective and tender expression on her perfect face. "So you judge, being a man who is perfectly satisfied with his own choice of a wife," she said with a flash of her old cynicism. "But I know myself better than you know me. You call me beautiful and sweet, but you cannot call me good. I am not good. Why, the very love that now consumes me is—" "What?" I asked her quickly, seizing her hands with the bluebells in them, and gazing searchingly into her eyes. "I know before you speak that it is the passion and tenderness of a true woman." She was silent for a moment. Then she smiled with a bewitching languor. "If you know, then I need not tell you," she said. "So do not let us stay here any longer talking nonsense. Society will shake its head over us and accuse us of bad form, and some lady paragraphist will write to the papers and say Mr. Tempest's conduct as a host left much to be desired, as he and his bride-elect were spooning all the day. There are no lady paragraphs here, I said, laughing, and encircled her dainty waist with one arm as I walked. Oh, there are not, though. Are there not, though? She exclaimed, laughing also. Why, you don't suppose you can give any sort of big entertainment without them, do you? They permeate society. Old Lady Marvell, for example, who is rather reduced in circumstances, writes a guinea's worth of scandal a week for one of the papers. And she is here. I saw her simply gorging herself with chicken salad and truffles an hour ago. Here, pausing and resting against my arm, she peered through the trees. There are the chimneys of Lily Cottage, where the famous Mavis Clare lives, she said. Yes, I know, I replied readily. Romanas and I have visited her. She is away just now, or she would have been here today. Do you like her? Sybil queried. Very much. She is charming. And the prince, does he like her? Well, upon my word, I answered with a smile, I think he likes her more than he does most women. He showed the most extraordinary deference towards her, and seemed almost abashed in her presence. Are you cold, Sybil? I added hastily, for she shivered suddenly and her face grew pale. You had better come away from the river. It is damp under these trees. Yes, let us go back to the gardens and the sunshine, she answered dreamily. So your eccentric friend, the woman-hater, finds something to admire in Mavis Clare. She must be a very happy creature, I think, perfectly free, famous, and believing in all good things of life and humanity, if one may judge from her books. Well, taken together, life isn't so very bad, I observed playfully. She made no reply, and we returned to the lawns where afternoon tea was now being served to the guests, who were seated in brilliant scattered groups under the trees or within the silken pavilions, while the sweet music, and the strangest, if people only had the ears to hear it, both vocal and instrumental, was being performed by those invisible players and singers whose secret whereabouts was unknown to all, save Lucio. End of chapter 23 of the Sorrows of Satan.